Are looking at Japan, we can't help but wonder how a similar disaster would change life and business here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Now, according to a report by the Applied Technology Council, there are 17,000 buildings in San Francisco considered especially vulnerable, and upgrading those buildings to withstand an earthquake could cost about $260 million. However, even with upgraded buildings, estimates say a 7.2 earthquake on the San Andreas Fault, for example, could cause upwards of $30 billion in damage. Now, one of the things the report didn't tell us is how Silicon Valley and tech companies are prepared to deal, or perhaps unprepared to deal with those disasters. For answers to that question, we're joined by Jeannie Stamberger. She's an associate director of the Carnegie Mellon Silicon Valley Disaster Management Initiative. Jeannie, thanks for joining us. You know, you live in Quake country, and you don't think about this stuff until you have to think about this stuff. You think about this stuff all the time. So what does this disaster in Japan tell us that we didn't know before?
Well, it tells us that something similar could happen where we are, not with nuclear reactors, but certainly there's a 67% chance that a 6.7 earthquake could occur in the Silicon Valley area in the next 30 years, and Silicon Valley is not as prepared as they should be for such an event.
Why? I mean, again, everyone here knows what the risk is. The companies here are fabulously profitable for the most part. Why aren't they ready?
There are lots of reasons why people don't prepare. Disasters are scary things. One of the things we're trying to do at the Carnegie Mellon Silicon Valley Disaster Management Initiative is use the innovative entrepreneurship spirit in Silicon Valley to develop next-generation technology to make it easier to prepare for disasters.
I want to know a little bit more about this disaster management initiative. You guys actually met on Friday when this happened in Japan. What do you guys do?
Well, we work across a large cross-sector of groups, and one of them is Crisis Commons, a group that's based out of D.C. that lets volunteers in their own home virtually assist in disasters. We actually set up an in-person camp where we not only had people virtually working on a wiki, collating disaster feeds for UN OCHA, but also we spun off a whole bunch of projects that our students and faculty at Carnegie Mellon identified as ways that they may be able to use their expertise to improve the response.
So the quake that happened in the Bay Area in 1989 was a 7.1 magnitude. This quake that happened in Japan, 9.0. If a quake of that magnitude struck Silicon Valley today, what would happen?
Well, we think that we would be quite unprepared. We know that communications would go down, and we're concerned that corporations and governments need to work together to improve a coordinated response and get a better handle on what the potential could be. We've heard estimates, as Cory said, for $30 billion, and I've heard estimates up to $120 billion in damage. We need to prepare now and use examples like Japan, which was a horrible tragedy that's continued to unfold, to prepare our efforts to ensure that we don't have something similar occur in our Bay Area.
Now, what is the number one thing that companies should be doing that they're not?
That's a really good question. We're working on disaster technology to improve communications. We think that communications are really important and are the backbone of trying to coordinate a response in all these different groups that would need to bring in supplies and ensure that a rapid response occurs and the least number of lives are lost.
So let's say I'm the CEO of Yahoo, because maybe I will be the next CEO of Yahoo. Maybe not. What should I be doing that I'm not doing already?
Well, we think that businesses need to look at their business continuity plans and where they stop and disaster response begins, and make sure that continuum is well understood and understand what their local government officials will do in an earthquake and where that response is limited because of the magnitude of a disaster, and work together with other corporations and work across public and private partnerships such as the California Resiliency Alliance in order to improve those sorts of relationships before the event occurs.
Now, when the big one hit in '89, the Loma Prieta earthquake, first of all, was located far below Silicon Valley, but the biggest impact in terms of loss of life was across the Bay Bridge, a point behind me, because it is behind me, where they're building a new Bay Bridge, still not done. Even though the earthquake was in '89, they're building a safer Bay Bridge. The Cypress Freeway, which we thought was fine, was destroyed because of, perhaps because of some shoddy building as well. Is the infrastructure throughout Silicon Valley and the Bay Area better than it was then? Are we in better shape than we were?
Infrastructure is a problem, but we primarily focus on what can be done, what's the lowest hanging fruit that we can tackle. As you said, the expectations for what may have happened in the Loma Prieta, the deaths that occurred, did not happen in the place where people expected. We expect something similar will happen. It's very hard to estimate where the biggest problems will occur. Therefore, we need to be prepared for everything. So infrastructure is one major component of problems. We're hoping that smart buildings, smart grid can enable buildings to be smarter, and retrofitting old buildings is certainly a problem in the Bay Area.
Great. Well, really appreciate this. This is a constant issue around here, but one that's very much in our minds these days. Appreciate you coming up.
You're welcome.
All right.